They say to reduce risk, you need to buy an established, stable, and mature business. So, just how old exactly is that? Old does a business need to be before we can say it's established and mature? We're going to be exploring that today. Stay tuned.
I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses while controlling risk. So, if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So, be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it. Are you thinking of growing your business or beginning a journey into entrepreneurship? Take a shortcut to success by buying an existing and profitable business the right way. Visit businessbuyeradvantage.com and learn more about my online training, group coaching, and consulting services designed to help you win.
So, how old does a business need to be before it's mature and established? And I think that it would be a good target for potential acquisition. I'm going to give you the answer, and then I'm going to spend like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so probably telling you why I think my answer makes sense. So, at a minimum, 5 to 10 years. So, why? Well, in my experience, if it's a very young business, like if it's only been around for a couple of years, the first few years during the startup period are usually, in general, very immaterial to what it looks like by year 4 or 5. So usually when you start a business, you've got losses and you're figuring things out, and you've had to hire people, but you don't really have enough business to justify the person, but you can't hire, half a person, or all this kind of stuff. And so usually when I'm looking at a 5-year-old business that started from scratch, the first year is just some kind of weird wash where there's all these extra expenses. They usually lost money. The second year, you've got growth in revenue, and maybe they lost money again. Maybe they made a little bit, but it usually that 2-year business doesn't look anything at all like what the business looks like in year 4, right? So you get through this first couple of years of being established, growing, figuring out things, growing pains, creating new systems and processes, figuring out which employees are good to keep, and you're getting rid of the bad apples that you happen to hire along the way. And by the time you get to that 4th year, usually the rate of growth has declined. So instead of growing by 40, 50% a year, which might not be a lot of money because you're starting from nothing, right? But you've got that super fast growth curve, and it starts to level off by year 4 or 5 or so. And then you can get into what you really want if you're a seller, or what a buyer is really looking for. Uh, you see, here's a little aside. If you're a stock market investor, what you're looking for is stocks of companies that have really high growth rates, right? Right. Like those tech stocks, 20, 30, 50% a year, because those stocks are going to be chased after by other investors, and they're going to cause the price of the stock to go up, which is what you're looking for. In the world of small business acquisition, people don't like super fast growth. What people want is stability, because they want to look at 2 years of financial statements and have a good degree of confidence that the following year after they acquire it is going to look somewhat similar. And that is going to let someone feel comfortable that this business is, going to keep going Eddie steady. The reason people buy businesses is they're trying to avoid risk. They want to have that cash flow, the clientele, etc. And so in the first few years, you're going through a quick growth, things level off and even off. And that's when you start to get into the point where you can say this is a mature business. Um, what then is happening when we get this leveling off period? Well, we know then that the reputation of the business has been more established, right? So people in the public see it in a certain way, and the it's obviously got to be positive. If people keep coming back and buying more from the business, or they're telling their friends about it, you've got a good reputation there, which is allowing for the continued cash flow to occur. You've got that consistent financial history that I mentioned. Operational efficiencies start to come in. So as your employees are with you longer and longer, they come up with new and better ways to do the things that you're doing. And so you actually become more profitable because you become better at doing it, because everyone in the organization is more experienced and is able to help figure things out, right? You also get staff retention and loyalty. Having key staff is really important. When you're first starting off a business or when it's young or all your employees are new, for example, anything that's completely outside of the normal operations that has to be run up to the owner, right? When you become more established and you have employees that have been around for a while, they understand the business, the purpose, the mission, etc. They may have seen other exceptions being dealt with in the past. And so there's a greater likelihood that when some exceptional occurrence happens, the employees will just take care of it. They'll understand what should happen, given where the organization is headed, and that makes everything work better, right? Because then things aren't stopping while they consult the owner every time. And you also have that better relationship with suppliers. They are used to doing business with you. Maybe they're extending you more credit. They're being more helpful to you. You're now on the short list of people who get called, for example, if you pay your bills on time, for like special offers, discounts, liquidations, all that kind of stuff, right? So time is going to help all of these things out. Now, there are some exceptions to this about this whole maturity test, and I'm going to talk about that. Um, Number one, franchises. So, because of the way franchises are operated and managed, because you've got all those systems in place, and a buyer could potentially more easily benchmark a franchise location against other franchise locations that already exist, I think that a franchise could get through this curve faster. So, if a typical restaurant franchise in a certain chain does like 1.2 or 1.3 million, and a new location is opened, and within 2 years they get up to that 1.3, and then you can see side by side, with other benchmarking data maybe supplied by the franchisor, that the operational ratios of this business are in line. Their cost of goods sold, their rent, all that kind of stuff is as a percentage of revenue in line with everything else. Then you could probably say, yeah, this business has hit a level of maturity very quickly. And the only reason we can kind of trust it is because they're within the framework of these systems that have been more established outside of the actual location. So that can be an exception. A younger franchise might be able to meet this sort of minimum tests for maturity earlier. Um, the other area that could be a little bit different would be highly regulated industries. So there's a lot of permits or licenses, et cetera. It can actually take longer for a new business to establish itself and become profitable in those industries because of the perceived switching costs that people have from moving from their existing supplier to the new one. So it can take longer for those companies to hit that plateau of sort of reliable profitability that we might call mature. Um, so it could be a few extra years. The other issue that comes up when we start to talk about businesses that are much, much longer or older than this 5 to 10 year span, that I think is important, is when businesses are like 35 or 40 years old. So, what can happen? A lot of the times, people are raised to respect their elders, right? And so, what practically does it mean? It means that there's a lot of people out there in the world of business who have a little bit of an issue with having people older than them being subordinated to them. Okay. So what I have seen over and over again through my career is someone starts a business. So imagine a 25-year-old starts a business, let's say. Most of the people that they're going to hire are going to be their same age or close to their age or younger. Okay. Because that 25-year-old may not be comfortable hiring the 50-year-old employee, and that having that weird relationship where the 50-year-old reports to the 25-year-old. And I know it happens. Listen, I'm talking in generalities here. So where this is a problem is that if the business is 35 years old, you could have an owner that wants to retire, and then right behind them, 80% of the staff is all within 5 or 6 years younger than the owner. And so the entire company is about to have a turnover in staff. So creates another kind of problem for a business buyer that you want to pay attention to. Um, the other big exception here is going to be strategic acquisitions. So if you run a chain of a certain kind of business, if you run a chain of medical transportation companies, for example, um, you could, for example, be looking at buying another medical transportation company. And do all of these things really matter? Probably not, because you already know so much about that industry. You may even know how to run that business better than its current owner. And so you can look at the equipment, look at the contracts, look at, the billing history, the level of business in that company, and you could make a decision to buy that company regardless of its sort of level of maturity, based on your own understanding of that industry. And if you own many companies within that industry, there's also sort of a natural sort of hedge or portfolio theory strategy kind of thing that comes into play, where even if you make a mistake on that acquisition, it's not going to hurt you as bad, likely, right? So those would be the exceptions. Um, if you've done an acquisition of a very young company and you've got some feedback or some different ideas than what I've covered here today, I'd love to hear what those are. Just put them down in the comments below. And I know other viewers like to go down in the comments as well and just see what people are talking about. But I would generally say what you're looking for maturity is more so just that period of 2-3 years where you got that stable sort of performance. Again, because buyers want to be confident the following year is gonna look somewhat similar. And the other issue that can arise is even if you have a business that's 10 or 15 years old, if it suddenly has a big jump in performance, if you suddenly pop up 30% in revenue and earnings, um, everyone's gonna be afraid that that's a one-time aberration, right? So buyers are gonna be worried that next year you're gonna go back to your historical level of activity. Sellers often will want to value their business based entirely on this one big year. And most buyers, especially the ones that work with me, will want to do a weighted average of several years and kind of bring back the frothiness of that 1 year of performance. I've told many sellers before that if they've had a big jump in their performance of their business and they really want to get out of the business and sell easily and be paid for that full increase in performance, the best strategy is often just to run it for another 2 years, to create another sort of leveled off plateau of performance at that higher level. Otherwise, be prepared for buyers who are gonna want assurances that this new level is actually, achievable on a consistent basis, and what that usually looks like is some kind of arrangement where maybe part of the seller financing is forgiven if the company doesn't continue to perform at the higher level, or maybe there's some kind of royalty or earn-out part of the deal, to ensure that if the new level of activity does not continue under the buyer's, stewardship, that they somehow get a discount. They get paid for the prior level. Um, you know, most business owners that have been in business for a long time, they become very comfortable with the risks in their industry. They see the ups and downs, they live through them, they survive, and they don't quite see how other people are looking at their business. And most buyers are putting everything they've got into a deal. They're leveraging up everything that they have in their life. They're putting all of their money into a deal, and it's very scary and very risky. And it's a hard thing for a lot of sellers to empathize with. But what a buyer really wants is a track record of performance showing any steady inflationary type of growth, because it gives the most confidence that next year is going to look the same. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Looking forward to your feedback and comments. And as always, if you are looking at buying a business anywhere, in any respect, head over to businessbuyeradvantage.com where you can learn about how we help buyers look at businesses. We've got online training, we've got a group coaching program, and we have consulting services where we help people look at businesses and help them come up with offers that make sense, based on research that we do on past transactions, and making sure that it works from a dollars and cents point of view. Anyway, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.